The evening began in one of the most exclusive dining halls in New York City, a place where fortunes were toasted under crystal chandeliers, and reputations could be shattered by a careless whisper. Servers glided across polished marble floors, trays balanced with precision, every movement rehearsed like a dance. At the center of it all sat Victor Stanton, a CEO whose fortune stretched across continents, known as much for his ruthlessness as for his wealth. His voice carried with deliberate force, designed to make those around him laugh even when they knew better. "Go on, Maya," he said loudly, his smile sharp and cruel. "Say Chateau Margaux again. This time try not to butcher it like you're announcing sweet tea at a roadside diner." The laughter at his table came reluctantly. Some chuckled because they feared him. Others smirked to mask their discomfort. But all eyes drifted to the young woman holding the wine list. Her name was Maya Carter. Tall, graceful with warm brown skin that glowed faintly under the chandelier light, she carried herself with quiet dignity. Yet in that moment, as Stanton exaggerated her soft southern accent, the room seemed to tilt against her. Her hands trembled only slightly as she steadied the list. She could feel the weight of their stares, 1,000 unspoken judgments pressed down upon her. "Look at this," Stanton continued, tapping his designer watch worth more than Maya earned in a year. "They'll hire anyone these days. Probably can't even spell sommelier. Maybe you'd be more comfortable serving fried chicken, sweetheart." The insult hung in the air like smoke. At the table, one guest shifted uncomfortably. Liang Chen, a visiting Chinese tech magnate, lowered his gaze, his expression tightening at the undertone he recognized all too well. A man of quiet dignity, he was unaccustomed to such open disrespect, yet he said nothing. Maya inhaled slowly. Her face remained composed, her posture unshaken, though fire burned deep inside. With a calmness that defied the cruelty in the air, she turned to Mr. Chen, and in flawless Mandarin she asked, "Sir, would you prefer I describe the vineyard's heritage before serving your wine?" The room froze, the laughter died instantly. Stanton's smirk stiffened, his jaw tightening in disbelief. Across the table, Chen's eyes widened in surprise, his brows arching in respect. No one spoke. Not a single fork clattered, not a glass chimed. For a heartbeat, even the glittering chandeliers seemed to hold their breath. That silence was Maya's first victory, but her story was far from finished. Because what unfolded next would not only challenge Stanton's arrogance, it would test Maya's courage, her loyalty, and her belief in her own worth. And it began as all battles of dignity do, in the quiet moments long before the spotlight ever found her. The alarm rang at 5 in the morning in a small apartment above a bakery in Queens. Maya cut the sound quickly and sat up in the half-dark. The scent of warm bread drifted through the floorboards. Steam pipes ticked behind the walls. Outside, delivery trucks sighed against the curb. She moved softly down the narrow hall. Her grandmother slept in the room at the end, hands relaxed over a quilt they had mended together. The door stood open just enough for Maya to see the gentle rise and fall of her chest. Relief steadied her. Another quiet morning began. In the kitchen, she filled a kettle and opened a notebook worn thin at the edges. Neat lines of Chinese characters filled each page. She traced them with a fingertip, the way some people touch family photographs. The kettle began to whisper. She whispered back in Mandarin, testing tones, smoothing rhythm, letting each phrase ring true in the empty room. On the wall above the small table hung a frame. Inside was a master's degree in linguistics from a university in Beijing. Next to it, a faded photo captured her on graduation day, hair pulled back, eyes bright. A younger woman who believed the next step would be a PhD and a desk stacked with research. Life had asked for something else. Her grandmother stirred. "Morning, Star," came the voice from the bedroom. Strong in spirit, fragile in body, Maya carried in a cup of jasmine tea and knelt to fix a slipping blanket. "Dinner shift again," her grandmother said, fingers curling around the warm cup. "VIP section," Maya answered with a small smile. "Better tips." She did not mention the looks. The assumptions. The way some guests spoke to the uniform, not the person. She saved her grandmother from that weight the way her grandmother had once saved her from so many others. "Knowledge is the kind of wealth no one can steal," her grandmother said, a line she had repeated since Maya was a child. "And I am rich," Maya replied. "I just need the right door." She packed her bag. One black notebook, a slim business Mandarin text, a small pouch of tea leaves her professor in Beijing had given her on the day she left. She straightened the collar of her work shirt and kissed her grandmother's forehead. On the walk to the subway, the city yawned awake. Street vendors rolled up metal shutters. A bus hissed at a corner. Dawn turned glass towers the color of soft peach. Maya carried herself like someone balancing a glass of water on her head. Calm, upright, careful. The Meridian rose from a quiet block in Midtown. A tall door, brass handles, glass that reflected the sky. Inside, white tablecloths lay tight as drumheads. Crystal shone like ice. The air smelled of lemon oil and butter. The back corridor pulsed with pre-shift energy. Chefs called orders to one another. A pastry cook slid trays into a tall oven. A timer chirped. Someone laughed at a joke near the walk-in fridge. "Morning, Maya," said Mateo at the dish pit. His hands moved fast. He had worked here for 2 decades. "Morning, Captain," she said. He lifted his chin in pride. He liked the title. "Carter," called the manager, Mr. Russo, from the office doorway. "You have tables 12 through 15. Stanton Group with an overseas delegation. Do not miss a beat." "Yes, sir," Maya said. Russo's gaze dropped to the corner of a book peeking from her bag. "Leave the study for later. Today you are background, smooth and silent." Across the room, Kyle adjusted cufflinks while the sommelier walked him through Bordeaux pairings. "The executive party asked for you," Russo told Kyle, loud enough for others to hear. "They prefer someone who knows how to talk wine." Maya kept her face neutral. Last week she had corrected Kyle's hard G in Gewürztraminer and took a gentle scolding for being fussy. Not today. Today she was a shadow moving without sound. She opened the walk-in wine list in her mind. Regions, years, notes, English, Mandarin, side by side. Bordeaux left bank, Cabernet Dominant, structure graphite cassis, right bank, Merlot plushness, plum and cocoa. She had built a library in her head and no one had asked to borrow a single book. The pre-dinner lull stretched for 15 minutes. A rare pocket of quiet. Some servers scrolled through their phones. Others slipped out to the alley for fresh air. Maya claimed the little table near the staff lockers. She set down her business Mandarin text and opened to a chapter on contract language. Terms for exclusivity. Provisions for technology transfer. The words had weight. The kind of weight that shifts fortunes. She practiced a line about raising concerns clear, courteous, firm. In the space between syllables, she could still hear Beijing. Every tone felt like a step on an old stone path she had walked in spring rain. Footsteps approached. Maya slid the book under a stack of menus and picked up her order pad. Mr. Russo looked over the table and then at her face. "Stanton's guests are arriving early," he said. "Get the special tea service from storage." They requested it. "Yes, sir." "And Maya," he added as she turned, "keep the southern phrasing light with this crowd. We are not hosting a backyard cookout." "Understood," she said. Her voice stayed even. Her eyes warmed by a fraction. A warning to herself to stay steady. She moved through the service hall to the storage room. The tea chest sat on the top shelf. She carried it as if it were a sleeping child. Inside were small cups, thin as shells, a clay pot, a kettle shaped like a pear. She checked for cracks. She polished a rim with a soft cloth. Care was her native language. In the glass of a hanging frame she caught her reflection. The uniform, the tidy bun, the straight back. A question rose and fell in her chest. Was this strength or camouflage? She set the tea at a side station and checked the dining room. Candles waited to be lit. Silverware stood in perfect lines. The door staff adjusted earpieces. Time thinned. The air sharpened. Security arrived first at 6:45. Dark suits, calm eyes, quiet words. 2 assistants followed with sleek tablets and leather portfolios. They moved like a tide that neither rushed nor broke. Then the guest of honor stepped in with them. Liang Chen did not dress to be seen. He did not need to. A dark charcoal suit, a simple platinum watch, a mind that had turned a modest lab in Shenzhen into a global engine for machine learning. The kind of success that did not need to announce itself. Maya placed water glasses with precise hands. She noticed the way Chen listened, the way his team stayed close yet relaxed, the way he thanked the hostess with a small nod that reached his eyes. "Welcome to the Meridian," Mr. Russo said, voice pitched higher than usual. "An honor to host you." Chen returned the greeting with a gentle bow of his head. One of his associates asked quietly about a custom tea service. Russo nodded with extra confidence that could not hide confusion. He looked to Maya as he passed behind her. "Set it up," he whispered. The front doors opened again. Air shifted. Sound thinned. Victor Stanton arrived with the stride of a man who expected doors to open faster than he could reach them. 6'2", hair silver in careful waves, leather shoes that made no sound, a tan that announced winter on a private coast. The room adjusted to him the way a school of fish adjusts to a passing shark. "Liang," he said brightly as he crossed the floor. "Hope you have not been waiting long." "We just arrived," Chen said. Polite. Even. Guarded. Maya returned with the tea service in time to see Stanton wave it away with a flick of fingers. "We will not be needing that," he said. "Bring your best scotch. Macallan 25 if you can find it." "The delegation requested tea," Russo began. "Deals in this country are sealed with good whiskey," Stanton said to Chen with a wink. "Right." Chen smiled in a way that revealed nothing. Maya caught the small disappointment in a single blink. She poured water. She announced the special in a steady voice that held a touch more home in it than she intended. Pan-seared halibut with fennel and citrus salad. Saffron beurre blanc. "I will have the filet medium rare," Stanton said over her words. He turned to Chen with a grin. "Do not worry if you did not catch that. Our local servers have their own way of talking." A few smiles died on lips. One man shifted in his chair. Chen studied Maya, not Stanton. Stanton drew out her syllables as if they were a toy. "Y'all will find," he said in a slow drawl he had not earned. He waited for laughter. Maya steadied the water pitcher. The surface trembled. Only a little. She finished the pours and stepped back to the side station. Her face held the calm of a frozen lake. Underneath, the current moved fast. What none of them knew was this. Hidden in a stack of papers on that table lay clauses that could lock a company out of markets and pry open the heart of its technology. And the only person in that room who could name those traps with perfect accuracy was the server everyone tried not to see. The first course tickets clipped onto the kitchen rail. The chef called for hands. Maya moved. The night gathered itself like a fist. It was ready to close. She was ready to open it. The kitchen doors swung open with a burst of heat and clatter. Servers streamed out with trays heavy with tuna tartare and scallop ceviche. Maya moved among them with practiced balance, her face calm, her step sure. Yet inside, a storm brewed. She reached Stanton's table at the exact moment his voice rose above the others. "Perfect timing," he announced as she lowered plates with delicate precision. "We were just getting to the interesting part." Maya stepped back, folding napkins at the side station, appearing busy but listening closely. Years of being treated as invisible had given her a gift. People spoke freely when they believed she did not count. Stanton leaned forward, his voice dropping but still loud enough for her to catch. "About the licensing terms," he said smoothly, sliding a folder across the table. "Minor adjustments. Section 5.3. Standard procedure. Nothing major." One of Chen's associates spoke in Mandarin, his tone uneasy. The young translator beside him scrambled, his vocabulary stumbling. "He is asking about the intellectual property provisions," the translator said, his accent stiff, his phrasing too vague. "Nothing to worry about," Stanton cut in. "Industry boilerplate. Protects both parties. Let's not get bogged down in details." Maya's hand stilled as she poured water. She caught fragments of Mandarin between Chen and his team. Concern. Doubt. The translator smoothed it over with bland words, but Stanton's voice gave him away. Too confident. Too eager. Then she heard the whisper meant only for an American colleague. "They'll never notice the exclusivity clause in the appendix. By the time their lawyers catch it, we'll already have their algorithm integrated." The words burned like acid in Maya's ears. This wasn't only arrogance. This was deception, calculated, cold, dangerous. She returned to the kitchen, her tray shaking for the first time that night. At the bread station, she steadied her hands against the counter. Her thoughts raced. Say nothing. That was the safe choice. "Keep your head down. Collect your tips. Go home, pay the rent. Buy your grandmother's medicine." But another voice rose, one older than fear. Her mother's voice, alive only in memory. "You were not raised to swallow disrespect. You were not raised to let lies poison the air while you stand silent." "Hey," Mateo whispered, stacking clean plates. "That guy at your table? He's trouble." "I'm fine," Maya said automatically, the server's shield. Always fine. Always smiling. Always bending, but she wasn't fine. The decision gnawed at her. One move could destroy everything she had built to keep her grandmother safe. One move could also stop Stanton from robbing an entire company blind. The call came from the chef. Order up for 14. The main course. The moment. Maya tightened her grip on the tray. The choice she made tonight would change her life one way or another. And as she pushed through the swinging doors, she knew the time for silence had ended. The dining room glowed with soft light as servers flowed out with the main course. Plates gleamed with saffron sauce, steam rising from perfectly seared fish. Conversation at Stanton's table hummed low, punctuated by his confident laughter. Maya approached, the decanted Bordeaux steady in her hands, though her heart raced. She moved to Mr. Chen's side, pouring carefully, ruby liquid catching the light like fire. She should have stepped back. She should have vanished into her role. But she didn't. "Excuse me, Mr. Chen," she said, her voice calm, precise, and in flawless Mandarin. "I believe there may be a misunderstanding regarding the appendix clauses in the contract." Silence crashed over the table. Forks hovered midair. Even the hum of the dining room seemed to dim. Stanton's grin faltered, eyes narrowing as though he had misheard. Chen turned slowly, astonishment plain in his face. Maya continued, each word clear. "The appendix references exclusive territorial rights that would prevent your company from operating independently in Europe and South America without Stanton Enterprises' approval. This is not consistent with what you were discussing earlier." The room held its breath. Chen's associates leaned forward, listening as if for the first time they had truly been spoken to. Stanton's jaw worked, fury rising like a tide behind his eyes. Chen responded in Mandarin, his tone respectful but sharp. "Your fluency is remarkable. Please continue." Maya set the wine bottle down with steady hands. "The intellectual property clause extends beyond joint development. It includes pre-existing technologies. That means your core algorithms would fall under Stanton's unrestricted use." Every face around the table changed. Stanton went from confusion to rage in the span of a heartbeat. Chen's surprise turned into focus. His translator shifted uncomfortably, lowering his eyes. "What is she saying?" Stanton demanded. Chen answered in English, his voice measured. "She is saying your contract is not what you claimed. It is highly unfavorable to my company." Stanton's color darkened. "This is completely inappropriate," he snapped, waving to Russo. "Get her out." "No." Chen's single word cut like glass. "She stays." For the first time all night, the power in the room shifted. Maya stood at the fault line, and the ground itself seemed to tremble beneath her feet. Stanton rose with a show of calm he did not feel, and gave a tight smile. "If you will excuse us for a moment," he said to the table. "I would like a quick word with our unexpected translator." Maya followed him down a short corridor lined with framed awards. The air smelled of lemon oil and cold marble. The hum of the dining room faded behind the heavy door. He turned fast. The smile vanished. "What do you think you are doing?" His voice was low and dangerous. "I am providing accurate translation," she said. "You are interfering in a private deal. You have no idea who you are dealing with." "I know exactly what I heard," she answered. "And I know what those clauses mean." He stepped closer. His cologne was sharp. His eyes were colder than the hall mirror behind him. "One call from me and you are out. No job, no reference. Do you understand the cost?" She felt fear rise and pass like a wave that does not reach the shore. "I understand the cost of silence," she said. A new voice entered the corridor. Calm, steady. "Is there a problem?" Liang stood at the doorway. He had moved without sound. His hands were folded. His gaze was clear. "Not at all," Stanton said in an instant, the charm returning as if it had never left. "Just a clarification." Chen looked from Stanton to Maya. "I would like Ms. Carter to return to the table," he said. "We have important language to review." They walked back together. The dining room hum returned like tidewater. Russo hurried toward them, face tight, steps short. "Sir," he said to Chen, "we cannot have a server seated with clients." "It is policy." Chen did not raise his voice. "I will pay for her time." "Consider it consulting," he said. Russo hesitated. 10,000, Chen added. "For tonight." "Paid to the restaurant." Silence spread across the nearest tables. The number took all the air from Russo's next protest. He nodded once. "Very well," he said. Maya removed her apron. She set her tray at the side station. Her hands did not shake now. She took the empty chair between Chen and his chief financial officer. She folded her hands on the table. She met no one's stare with challenge. Only with calm. Thank you, she said to Chen in English, then shifted to Mandarin. I will translate with precision for both sides. He gave the smallest nod. Respect offered and received. Stanton smiled again, smooth as glass. Of course, he said. We all want clarity. Transparency is key. Chen tapped a page. Section 5.3, he said. Please translate this clause line by line. Maya read the dense text. She took a breath that did not call attention to itself. This language defines derivative, she began, as any system that incorporates or interfaces with Liang system's existing algorithms. Joint ownership follows from that definition. Chen's legal counsel frowned. That would classify our core engine as derivative the moment it connects, he said. Stanton leaned back with a practiced shrug. Standard protection for both parties, he said. Maya did not argue. She translated. Word for word. Tone intact. Then there is the territorial appendix, she continued. Exclusive rights granted to Stanton Enterprises for Europe and South America. Liang Systems would need written approval to operate independently there. The chief financial officer's pen paused above the paper. That was not in our verbal outline, he said. It protects investment, Stanton replied. Nothing more. Chen turned to his own translator. With respect, the young man said, eyes down. My business vocabulary is limited. Ms. Carter's Mandarin is stronger than mine in these terms. A simple truth. It rearranged the room. Stanton slid a second folder across the linen. If it helps, he said, we prepared alternate options. Perhaps one of these will suit. Maya read the new pages. The traps were thinner. They were still traps. She translated the wording that stretched definitions. She translated the phrase that hid a claw inside a compliment. She translated the numbers that seemed fair until you did the math. The air cooled a few degrees. The servers moving in the background seemed to glide more carefully now. The table had become a small storm and the room felt it. Chen closed the folder with care. I am beginning to question more than language, he said. Everyone negotiates hard, Stanton said. In China too, I am sure. Careful, Chen said. The smile did not leave his mouth, but it left his eyes. Cultural shortcuts caused damage. A thin wire stretched across the table. It hummed with risk. Money. Pride. Time. Maya felt the pull of it and chose balance. May I offer an observation? She asked Chen in Mandarin. Please, he said. In American business culture, pressure testing is common. Push to see the other side's line. It can feel aggressive, but it is often expected. Chen listened. In Chinese business culture, trust is the first block in the foundation. Without trust, a contract has little meaning. She turned to Stanton and shifted to English. Mr. Chen understands tough negotiation. His concern is trust. The approach has created doubt that the documents cannot fix. Stanton's eyes narrowed, not with anger now, with thought. He looked at Chen and saw a door that might be closing for good. He looked back at Maya and saw a bridge he did not build. What do you suggest? He asked her. Start with shared principles, she said. Define what partnership means to both sides. Then shape the language to fit that frame. Not the other way around, Chen nodded once. A wise order, he said. Stanton placed the controversial documents aside. He pulled a blank notepad to the center. He put a pen on top of it the way a swimmer places a hand on water before the dive. All right, he said. No hidden terms, no games. What principles would make this valuable to you? They began again. Maya carried the words back and forth with care. She did not only translate sounds. She carried intent, context, nuance. When Chen used a term that had no direct English twin, she gave the shape of the idea. When Stanton spoke in shorthand that hid 3 assumptions, she unrolled them so everyone could see the full cloth. They wrote a short list on the clean page. Mutual protection of existing technology, joint ownership limited to truly new work, clear revenue sharing in every region, no territorial lockdowns, a standing review group with equal seats, an agreed process for dispute resolution that preserved face and fairness. The tension did not vanish. It changed shape. It became work instead of war. A server cleared plates at the edge of the circle and could not hide his glance at Maya. The manager stood near the bar, hands still, for the first time that night. Kyle watched from the service station with his mouth open until Mateo nudged him back to the coffee orders. Stanton's legal counsel arrived with a laptop. Chen's counsel opened a tablet. New language formed on screens while Maya tested each sentence aloud for meaning and lift. She caught a verb that pulled too hard in one direction and offered a better one. She found a term that shifted risk without saying so and named it. She did not argue for either side. She argued for clarity. Hours passed without feeling like hours. Candles shortened. The dining room thinned. The storm over one table turned into steady rain over growing ground. Stanton looked at the notepad list again. He placed his pen down and smoothed the edge of the paper with a thumb. "I can move on these," he said. "All of them." "Then we have a frame," Chen said. The room exhaled. Not with relief alone, with a new shape of hope. Dessert arrived and sat untouched for a while. Espresso came and cooled. The first version of the revised terms reached the table. Maya read them line by line. She nodded. She paused. She asked one question that forced the lawyers to rewrite a sentence that looked perfect and was not. Chen turned to her in the small silence that followed. "Your path," he said softly. "How did you learn this voice and then hide it so well?" "Beijing for my master's," she said. "Linguistics with a focus on business language. Before that, Georgetown, Chinese and international business. I came home when my grandmother needed care." He listened with full attention. "And other languages, French and Spanish professionally, some Japanese, beginning Korean." Across the table, Stanton's expression shifted. Calculation drained. Curiosity remained. He was seeing a person, not a uniform. It changed his posture. He checked his phone. He put it face down. "You have guided a difficult room," he said. "Better than many on my team." "Thank you," Maya said. Her voice stayed even. Her eyes softened. She did not reach for pride. She did not run from it either. The servers cleared the last plates. The city outside had turned the deep blue that comes before full night. The two companies agreed to meet in the morning to finalize language under the new frame. They stood. Hands were offered. Respect moved around the circle like a small warm wind. "Will you join us tomorrow?" Stanton asked, looking at Maya rather than through her, to keep the words clean. "I was about to ask the same," Chen said, a hint of a smile now clear. "Your work has been essential." Maya felt the ground steady under her feet. The fault line was behind her. Another lay ahead. It was not a threat. It was a path. Outside the dining room, a clock chimed the hour. Inside, choices waited that would shape more than a contract. The night had shifted the future. Morning would test it. The next morning, the city stretched awake under a pale sky. Sunlight struck glass towers and spilled into the lobby of Stanton Enterprises, where the marble floor reflected every hurried step. Maya arrived in her navy suit, the one she had not worn since her last academic conference years before. She carried no tray, no apron, only a leather folder with her notes. For the first time in years, she walked into a building not as invisible help, but as a voice that mattered. On the 40th floor, the conference room opened to the skyline. Liang and his team were already seated, calm and prepared. Stanton and his executives entered soon after, less certain than the night before. The air felt thinner, more cautious. The meeting began. With Maya at the table, words found balance. She bridged gaps that had sunk other negotiations. Technical terms flowed clear. Cultural nuances no longer tripped the discussion. Both sides leaned on her, asking questions, trusting her answers. Hours passed, but progress came swiftly, a clean current after a storm. At the close, new documents lay on the polished wood, free of hidden claws and shadowed traps. Both CEOs signed, their pens moving steadily, each man glancing once at Maya as if to acknowledge her presence was part of the ink itself. Then Chen slid a folder across the table. "We are expanding in North America," he said. "We need someone who understands both our worlds. Someone who can build bridges instead of walls. I would like you to be our Director of International Communications." The offer filled the room like a bell's chime. Salary, benefits, flexibility for family care. It was everything she had once dreamed of and everything she had once given up. Before Maya could speak, Stanton cleared his throat. He looked at her, really looked without arrogance for the first time. "My behavior last night was wrong," he said, each word measured. "I judged you by uniform, not by truth. If you will allow it, I would also like you to consider working with us. We have needed someone like you longer than I will admit." The silence that followed was not empty. It was heavy with possibility. Maya breathed in slowly, the weight of years pressing against her ribs, and felt them finally loosen. That evening she returned to her grandmother, who sat by the window with the city lights winking beyond the glass. Maya knelt beside her, laid the offer letter in her lap, and whispered, "We made it." Her grandmother's smile was tired but bright. "I told you. Knowledge is treasure. No one can steal it, and now you see why you had to carry it all this time." Weeks later, Maya stood in a new office overlooking the city. Diplomas hung proudly on the wall. A photo of her grandmother sat in a silver frame on her desk. The path had shifted. The cage had broken. At a leadership summit, she spoke to an audience of executives. Talent speaks every language. The question is whether leaders choose to listen. The greatest assets are often hiding in plain sight. Not because they want to be invisible, but because no one has truly looked. Applause rose like thunder, and somewhere in the room, a young server carrying a tray stopped for a moment, watching her, and thought, "Maybe one day, me too." The circle had closed. The story was complete, and Maya Carter was no longer background music. She was the symphony.